Pride isn't only about parades, parties, and rainbows. It's about protest, resilience, and resistance. It's also about our history. But how much of that history do we actually know? How much of that history have we actually read? From tales of underground resistance to unsung heroes that hardly ever make the history textbooks, LGBTQ plus stories are as powerful as they are overlooked. That's why in this video we're going to dive into 5 critical LGBTQ plus history books you should check out for Pride Month. Number 5, The Book of Pride, LGBTQ Heroes Who Changed the World. This is a really awesome book. I love how the author went and found a whole bunch of different stories of LGBTQ heroes and advocates throughout history and spotlighted each of them. There's a whole bunch of different names in this book that I imagine you've never heard of, but through each page, each story, you see a new dimension to the LGBTQ community, and there's just a wealth of accessible information here. And of course, I'll include links to all these books in the description for this video. Number 4 is Why Marriage? The History Shaping Today's Debate Over Gay Equality. Now, this book is framed around the marriage equality debate, so it might seem a little old or not as relevant to some of the debates we're currently having around books in schools, transgender rights, but the book provides a really rich and accessible history of discrimination against LGBTQ people and why fighting for LGBTQ rights and having a Pride Month is important in the first place. And so when someone asks you, why do you care about gay pride or LGBTQ pride, this book gives you a wealth of answers as it outlines all of the hardships and discrimination we have faced in United States history. Number 3 is Queer Brown Voices, Personal Narratives of Latino LGBTQ Activism. Now, of course, as these authors argue, a lot of times that when we review LGBTQ history, that review remains very centered on white LGBTQ advocates. And this book is all about expanding that narrative to include the work of Latinx advocates in the United States. This one is a little bit more scholarly in nature, but as it goes through each story, the stories of all the different advocates that it talks about are accessible. There's a lot of nice depth. Number 2 is Reforming Sodom, Protestants and the Rise of Gay Rights. Now, many folks assume that there's always been an anti-queer, almost universal sentiment against LGBTQ individuals in Protestant churches in the United States. And conversely, there are folks that assume that the LGBTQ rights movement has always been a secular movement. And in this book, the author challenges both assumptions, showing how LGBTQ advocacy occurred within Protestant churches, and the author also details how Protestant clergy and practitioners also fought for LGBTQ rights and queer inclusion. So if you've never heard of names such as Will Johnson or Troy Perry, and if you've never heard of the Council on Religion and the Homosexual, this is a good book for you to read to learn more of that context as it relates to LGBTQ advocacy within Christian communities and how faith also shaped LGBTQ rights and the arguments being made for LGBTQ rights. And number 1 is Safe Space, Gay Neighborhood History and the Politics of Violence. I wanted to include this book because it is an important reminder for us this Pride Month that as we push for LGBTQ rights, queer inclusion, we do not also end up harming other communities, other marginalized communities and people. This book does a really good job describing how sometimes in the LGBTQ rights movement, the arguments being made and the positions being advocated for also resulted in more marginalization of other communities. Specifically, the author argues that in an effort to provide safety and safe spaces for LGBTQ plus people, the movement made arguments that coincided with and perhaps even reinforced broader efforts at criminalizing Black, brown, and poor communities. And so as people argued for increased safety, that gave additional justification for expanding the prison industrial complex. These books remind us that we've been here, fighting, loving, and living out loud. If any of these titles spoke to you, please let me know in the comments below. And if you have any favorite LGBTQ history books that I didn't mention, please let us know in the comments so we can start building out our collective library of knowledge about the LGBTQ plus past.